Let me tell you about a man who thought he was untouchable. His name was Lucas Carter. Genius. Billionaire. The kind of guy who walked into rooms like he owned the air inside them. But on this day, inside the glittering towers of Horizon Capital, he was about to learn the hardest lesson of his life. Because no matter how high you climb, there's one thing you never outgrow: basic respect. The morning sun sliced through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Horizon Capital's 22nd floor. Lucas strode in, his navy suit sharp enough to cut glass, his shoes polished to a mirror shine. Behind him, his assistant scrambled, tablet in one hand, a half-finished latte in the other. Lucas had taken 2 sips before deciding it wasn't perfect. That was Lucas. Always demanding. Always certain the world bent to his rules. The conference room hummed with quiet tension. Around the table sat the kind of people who moved billions before breakfast. Men in tailored suits, women in power dresses, all watching, waiting, and at the far end of the table her. She didn't look up when Lucas entered. Just kept scanning her documents, calm, unhurried. Lucas barely glanced her way. Probably an assistant, he thought. Maybe a junior analyst. As he made his rounds, shaking hands, flashing his trademark grin, he reached her seat. And then, without even thinking, he waved her off. "I don't shake hands with staff." The room went dead silent. Slowly, she lifted her gaze. No anger. No offense. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that comes from absolute certainty. "Mr. Carter," she said, her voice smooth as steel. "Thank you for joining us." And that's when Lucas realized she wasn't staff. She was Danielle Brooks, managing partner of Horizon Capital. The woman holding the $2 billion lifeline his empire desperately needed. Lucas's smile didn't falter yet, but something inside him cracked. The air in the room had changed. The power had shifted. And for the first time in years, Lucas Carter wasn't the one in control. What happened next? Oh, it gets worse. Much worse. Because Lucas was about to learn that in life, there are 2 kinds of power. The kind you take, and the kind you earn. There's a moment, just one breath, one heartbeat, when proud men realize they've made a terrible mistake. For Lucas Carter, that moment came when Danielle Brooks stood up from that table. The screen behind her flickered to life. Liquidity risk assessment glared back in bold red letters. Lucas's stomach dropped. This wasn't the presentation he'd planned. Danielle didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Every word was a scalpel. "Your burn rate is unsustainable. The Austin acquisition, a legal quagmire. And your last 2 quarters. A tap of her tablet. Graphs spiraled downward like water circling a drain. "You're not here for a partnership, Mr. Carter. You're here for a rescue." Lucas forced a laugh. "Come on, Danielle, you know how this game works. High risk, high reward." He spread his hands, waiting for the usual nods, the hungry grins of investors smelling blood in the water. Silence. Not a single person at that table would meet his eyes. Somewhere a phone recorded. Just 7 words. "I don't shake hands with staff." But by midnight they'd gone nuclear. Twitter exploded. LinkedIn hot takes piled up. The clip looped on business news, each replay like another nail in his coffin. His phone blew up, first with concern then with panic. "CFO. Lucas, we've got 3 investors backing out. The stock's tanking pre-market." Board member. "You couldn't keep your ego in check for one meeting?" Dawn came with a nightmare. Rivers Tech stock opened 27% down. By noon, another $400 million vaporized. Reporters camped outside his office, shouting questions about toxic leadership. And Danielle Brooks. She gave one interview, calm as always. Horizon invests in people, not personas. Character matters. The clip got more likes than his entire last product launch. Alone in his penthouse, Lucas stared at the skyline he'd thought he owned. The truth hit like a punch. He'd lost because of a handshake. A basic act of respect he couldn't be bothered to give. Somewhere, Danielle was probably sipping tea, unshaken. While his empire, built on swagger and smoke, crumbled because he'd forgotten the oldest rule. No one has to respect you no matter how rich you are. Rock bottom has a way of teaching lessons that mountain peaks never could. And Lucas Carter. He was about to learn the hardest one of all. The weeks after the Horizon disaster were a blur of damage control. His PR team begged him to apologize. Just say you were stressed, say it was a misunderstanding. But Lucas couldn't. Not yet. Because deep down he still believed he was right. Until the morning his biggest investor called. "We're out, Lucas. It's not the money, it's the pattern. You treat people like furniture." The line went dead. For the first time in his life, Lucas stopped talking. He stopped pitching, stopped posturing. And in that silence, he saw himself clearly. The college kid who'd coded his first app in a dorm room, hungry and humble. The man he'd become, so obsessed with winning that he'd forgotten how to be human. His phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Carter. Danielle Brooks. His pulse spiked. Was she gloating? Offering a lifeline? Her voice was calm. "I didn't call to lecture you. But I've been where you are. The moment you realize your reputation is a house of cards. What you do next. That's the only part that matters." Lucas expected rage. Instead he felt something worse, shame. That afternoon, he did the unthinkable. He apologized, publicly, no excuses. He stepped back as CEO. He called every employee he'd ever bulldozed. Some hung up, some cried. One said, "Took you long enough." A year later, Lucas sat across from Danielle again, this time in a small cafe, not a boardroom. "You know why I really walked away from that deal?" she asked. "Not because you were arrogant. Because arrogance makes people reckless. And reckless people, they crash empires." Lucas nodded. "Took me 40 years to learn what you knew at 20. Danielle smiled. "Now you get to teach it." Lucas Carter never got his $2 billion back. But he built something better. Second chance. Not as a titan but as a man who finally understood. The higher you climb, the more your character matters. Because the fall hurts worse when no one wants to catch you. So tell me, who do you need to thank? Who do you need to apologize to? Don't wait until it costs you everything. Hit that like button if this story made you think, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because the world, it needs fewer kings and more humans.